Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Tori. Today is Monday, October 3rd, 2022. And we begin with Major League Baseball taking no chances. Every ball pitched to Aaron Judge as he continues to chase home run history now carries two special markings. According to the New York Times, one is a stencil visible to the naked eye. The other is super secret and can only be seen with special technology. Neither impacts how far the ball will travel, but both are used to make sure anything pulled from the bleachers after one of his home runs is authentic. The coded balls are given to the home plate umpire, then the pitcher, as Aaron steps to the plate. When the slugger finishes his at-bat, the special balls are taken out of play. So far, Aaron has 61 homers this season, tied with Yankee great Roger Maris, who set the American League single-season home run record back in 1961. President Biden is about to see firsthand the damage done by Hurricane Ian. His first stop will be in Puerto Rico today and then Florida on Wednesday. His mission, he says, is to reassure those impacted that help is on the way. And while cleanup has begun, rescues are still taking place. Search teams from all over the country have descended on the hardest-hit areas in the Sunshine State up through the Carolinas to pull people from their homes where floodwaters still haven't receded. According to experts, Hurricane Ian will go down as one of the most powerful, most destructive storms to ever hit Florida. Damage estimates are in the tens of billions of dollars. A 12-year-old singer from the UK who's made headlines with some of the biggest names in rock and roll is at it again. Nandi Bushel's already taken her place at the drums with the Foo Fighters, played guitar with Lenny Kravitz, and performed at the Queen's Jubilee. Now she's just released her first original single, a song she wrote to cheer up her dad during some health struggles. Mr. Bushel said it sure helped him, and he hopes it helps others. Nandi announced her new song to her 2.5 million followers. It's called The Shadows and is available on YouTube. In our KidNuz notes, today is the first Monday in October, and that means it's also the start of a new term for the U.S. Supreme Court. The newest member of that court, Ketanji Brown Jackson, took her seat over the weekend with an investiture, which is a ceremonial welcoming party attended by other justices, ranking members of Congress, and President Biden. Ms. Brown Jackson is the first Black female justice in the history of the High Court. Jimmy Carter is already the longest-living U.S. president, and over the weekend he added another candle to his cake. Mr. Carter turned 98 on Saturday and, according to USA Today, celebrated it in Plains, Georgia, where he and his 95-year-old wife, Rosalind, were born and still live. The former president's grandson says Mr. Carter is still in great shape, totally with it, and that he planned to spend the weekend watching his favorite baseball team, the Atlanta Braves. History is freaking cool, so says Lizzo, who recently had the privilege of playing a 200-year-old crystal flute that once belonged to President James Madison. The opportunity came last week when Lizzo collaborated with the Library of Congress for a concert in Washington, D.C. She played just a few notes before carefully, very carefully, giving the ornate instrument back to library staffers for safekeeping. Who knew penguins and otters could give attitude? As documented in a now viral video, the water-loving residents of the Hakone-en Aquarium outside Tokyo, Japan, have banded together in their refusal to eat cheap fish. Previously, the birds and otters both enjoyed their diet of horse mackerel, but when prices for that delicacy skyrocketed, their zoo switched to a less expensive option. And when that's what's for dinner, the penguins turn their beaks, and the otters, well, they just run away. According to CNN, the zookeepers have resorted to mixing the cheap fish with something else more appealing. And even then, the picky penguins and snooty otters eat it only begrudgingly. That's it for KidNuz. Now, today's KidNuz quiz. A new term begins today for what U.S. institution? The U.S. Supreme Court. How old is former President Jimmy Carter? He turned 98 over the weekend. Penguins and otters at a Japan zoo are turning their backs on what? Their new diet of cheap fish. How are the baseballs thrown to Aaron Judge different than those for other players? They are specially marked for authenticity. In today's Kid News Kicker, while all eyes have been on Aaron Judge and the Yankees, the Seattle Mariners have made some baseball news of their own. They've reached the playoffs. And while that might not sound all that remarkable, it is, at least for them. It's been 21 years since the Mariners saw the postseason, which gave them the dubious distinction of owning the longest postseason drought in the history of North American sports. The team now holding the longest active drought is the NBA's Sacramento Kings, who haven't been to the playoffs since the 2005-2006 season. Before we go, we want to say a big hello to our Kid News classroom, starting with Mrs. Wilkinson and her Mustangs at J.A. Taylor Elementary in Centerville, Utah. Ms. Manuel and her fantastic Hawks at Oliver Wendell Holmes Elementary in Oak Park, Illinois. Mrs. V and her Little Sharks at Shimona Creek Elementary in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. In California, Mrs. Crooker and her Eagles at Hart Ransom in Modesto. And Mrs. Plotkin and her Golden Bears at Cesar Chavez Elementary in Greenfield. Thanks for listening. Please consider a donation or sponsorship by visiting our website at kidnews.org. And we'll see you back here for more Kid News tomorrow morning.